It's Duquesne week. Now, for some reason, a lot of media have been coming up with stories about how Duquesne has a path to beat West Virginia. Seems to me they're going out of their way to be negative just to stir up clicks and views. Well, we know that works, but comes under the heading of just because you can doesn't mean you should. Well, I'm going back to the questions that I'll be asking on Sunday if I hadn't seen the game on Saturday. I'm going to have to pay for this one on ESPN Plus, but I'll go for it. Biggest question, of course, is were the essential problems against Penn State eliminated? They certainly should be. It may be a little difficult to tell if they are eliminated. Is it because the problems were fixed, or just because Duquesne wasn't good enough to reveal them? We may not know that until after the Pitt game. Did the penalties stay low? Or at least stay low until like third string was in? If those guys screw up a little, that's no big deal. But that was one of the best things, not one of the best, but one of the good things about the Penn State game. Despite the atmosphere, penalties were low. 2 of them hurt. That's the nature of penalties. But the number of penalties was well down. One of the problems to be fixed was the coverage tighter. That means were the corners playing up more? And did they stick with the receivers? I expect Duquesne will try rubs since they worked so well for Penn State. But do the corners and safeties stick to the receivers? Did the defense get an increased number of tackles for loss, more pressure on the quarterback, more sacks? They did well against Penn State. They should do better against Duquesne. We should see a lot of disruption. We should see getting to the quarterback, not just forcing him to throw on the run. On the offensive side, was Garrett Green cooler? If he was cooler, was he also more accurate? Corollary to that is, did the receivers get open and catch the ball? I really think a lot of that was affected by the atmosphere at Penn State. It's not as obvious an effect as penalties can be, but if there's just something a tad off, it can make a big difference. How did Marchiol do? I expect to see a lot of him. Maybe in the first half, maybe not until the second half. I would expect at least all of the third quarter. Then I'm hoping we'll have a chance to see Sean Boyle. That would mean the game is going well, unless, heaven forbid, Green and Marchiol are both out for injuries or that sort of thing. We'll pretend I didn't even think about that. Did they switch the Will and Mike linebackers again? It was probably just situational for Penn State. That's what Jordan Leslie suggested. Not that they won't do it again in the right situation, But I do expect to see Koba at Mike, Lathan at Will. And I expect to see Caden Beiser and Ben Cutter. Sorry about that. Was the average per run up? The run went fairly well against Penn State, but they didn't break runs, and it got stuffed more than I would have liked to have seen, particularly on second down. So we need to see from all of the running backs solid runs and some big 20-yard plus runs. They certainly should be able to do that against Duquesne. Again, I liked the running game mostly against Penn State, but that means it should be a lot better against Duquesne. Flipping it over, looking from the Duquesne perspective against the West Virginia offense, did Duquesne get pressure? Whether it's on running plays or pass. Pressure was a problem against Penn State. They stuffed a lot of the runs when they would bring, 8 or 9 into the box late, just before the snap. They got too much pressure forcing Green out of the pocket. Okay, against Penn State, that's not especially surprising. It was an excellent defense. But Duquesne should not get pressure. Green, Marchio, Boyle, they should have time. So when we see what happens with those questions, we'll have a good idea how the Duquesne game went. I, of course, expect it to go very well. And then, since I'm not on the team, I get to look ahead and say, we're going to beat Pitt. Yeah, I've said it before. Going to say it again. We're going to beat Pitt. We're going to have a good season. And I'm going to do more videos. I'm looking forward to it all. Hope you are too. So long.